This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming back the gorgeous, the talented, the not easily offended Dru Anne Perry Moss. You all remember her from such cult classic films like Luscious Lips, a very underrated Charlie Band horror film from the late 80s, and Dangerously Close, the Albert Pine, I'm always mispronouncing his last name, action thriller from Canon that he made. And we are going to nerd out on the entertainment of our youth, talking about film, television, music, and all of that stuff, and I cannot wait. And it's going to be another great conversation today. I am so fucking excited to have Dru Anne back on today. Also, I have a very special announcement to make. And, normally I don't let people know when someone iconic is coming on Splat from the Past right off the bat, but I have to make exception here because I'm so friggin' excited about it. Nicole Eggert is coming on. I don't know when exactly, but I have to let all you know that she's scheduled for sometime in November. I got to hear back from her assistant today. And I'm so happy. I mean, really happy. I reached out to her at the end of last year, but then she got diagnosed with cancer and there was a lot of confusion, so I didn't hear back. But now I have heard back. Go see her this weekend at the Hollywood Show in Burbank, along with many of my iconic guests I've had on. Diane Franklin, Diane Robin, Sam Quasman, Charlie Brill, Patrick Laberto, Ken Oland, Beverly Washburn, Barry Chase, etc. Go get those signatures and tell them Tommy sent you. So yeah, here is my new interview with Dru Anne Perry Moss.
Hey, Tommy.
Hey Dru, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Oh, I gotta say, even in the darkest of times, I am so lucky. I'm just so blessed beyond blessed. Thank you for asking.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, I've just been busy podcasting and all that stuff. So, going back in time, do you remember the first movie that impacted you as a child?
Yes, I think I was like 12 and my aunt took me to The Exorcist.
Oh,
She took me and a bunch of girls to see The Exorcist and we were traumatized.
yeah. Oh, my dad and my stepdad, they both saw it when they were, in their teen years. And yeah, there were kids that were like running out of the theaters and going to the bathroom and vomiting.
Oh, yes, it was terrifying. I guess because it was, I mean, it had so much spiritual stuff in it. And
Yeah.
so it scared me. It terrified me on a spiritual level. It's like, oh my God, somebody can be possessed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty traumatizing. Yeah. Yeah, the first horror movie I ever saw was The Shining when I was one. My parents, who didn't like horror but they love Jack Nicholson, showed it to me, and it fucked me up. I tell you, I mean, big
Oh, heck
time.
yeah.
I mean, big time. And then I went back and watched it all chopped up on USA when I was 7, and then it became my go-to horror movie every Halloween.
Oh, how funny. That's funny. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
but
Well, another one that impacted me was it was my first car date with my high school sweetheart.
mhm,
Like I wasn't allowed to go on car dates with him. He could only come over and visit.
yeah.
But we went to see the premiere of Star Wars, the original, like when the original came out. It must have been like, was it 1977 or
Star
76 or something like that?
Star
But the
Wars
original one.
Star Wars was 77.
Yeah, 77. And that was our first date. So that was another impactful one because that was huge because you had never seen any special effects like that before.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, I mean, there were lines around the block of kids with parents to see that movie. I've seen footage on YouTube of like LA, all the theaters in downtown were just packed around the block. I mean, was it like that
Oh
too in
yeah.
Texas?
Yeah, it was in a small town. I remember Midland, Texas is where I grew up. And yeah, the line was wrapped around the building to get in because it was, I guess, oh, come on, not the premieres, like the trailers and all the advertising for it, it had built up so much momentum. People were just dying to see it.
Yeah, it's funny too. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. In the summer of '76, Logan's Run came out in the theater, and it did okay, but it didn't set the world on fire. And then right after Star Wars comes out, the Logan's Run TV series comes out, and it fails after like I don't know 10 episodes or something. And then
Right.
the next year, Battlestar Galactica comes on the air. It does well, but the show was too expensive, so they canceled it. It's strange how that works, you know, in sci-fi and becoming popular.
Yeah, no kidding. I think Logan's Run, I think part of that was shot in Fort Worth, Texas.
That may be so. Yeah, I do know that they shot on. I think they shot on the sound stages of Pinewood Studios in England too. But I think some of it was also shot in Texas, like as far as exteriors go.
Yeah, yeah, they had like there's a huge water garden in Fort Worth, and I think they shot some scenes there because it was very futuristic looking.
Yeah. Yeah, Back to the Future was the first movie that impacted me as a child because I always had that fantasy of going back in time and seeing my parents in high school and finding out why they're so fucked up and I'm so fucked up, you know?
Right. I know. Wouldn't that be nice to know why that is?
Yeah, and I think that's the appeal of the movie, why so many people love it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, God, The Exorcist. Yeah, I'm sure you remember when Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. I think I went to that one at the drive-in because we still had drive-in theaters back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember going to that one.
Oh my God! Last weekend, I want to say they had a Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day in Austin. I think.
Oh, how fun.
To,
I would love that because Halloween's my favorite. Halloween time is my favorite
yeah,
holiday.
it was the 50th anniversary of the movie, and the guy who rescues Marilyn Burns at the end, I had him on the podcast 2 weeks ago, Perry Lorenz, and he was telling me that they were having Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day, and half the cast was going to be there.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, I wish I could go to an event like that. I've interviewed a lot of the surviving cast members of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, that's neat. What a cool job you have.
It's not a job to me. It's my passion is what it is more.
I
So
was gonna say because yeah, when you're doing something you enjoy, it's not a job.
absolutely, yeah. All those landmark horror movies, they were all game changers in their own way. Starting with Night of the Living Dead, you know.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Yeah, at 68,
Yeah.
people had trouble taking horror into another direction for a while, and I guess it was a timing issue. And I noticed a lot of the horror movies that came after, a lot of the low budget horror movies that came after Night of the Living Dead, they were all like Charles Manson type stories about cults and the hippies and all of that.
Right, right.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
I Drink Your Blood and Blood Sabbath, and there was another one. There was one with Gerald. There was a couple that Gerald McRaney made early in his career, in the late
Really?
'60s, early '70s. Yeah, they're really obscure horror movies.
Yeah, I had no idea he started off like that.
Yeah, nobody knows what their career path is going to be, especially in acting. You know.
Oh, it's so true. My daughter is pursuing acting. She lives in Atlanta, and I'm always telling her, I said, you just never know the direction it's going to take. And I'm telling her, you grab the gigs when you get them, you do them, because you just never know.
Yep, and be grateful because this could lead to something else, or even if it doesn't, you're going to have cult success from it, you know?
Yes. I mean, I still, to this day, people, friending me and reaching out to me just from Vicious Lips, which was, 400 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What kind of comedy did you like growing up?
Well, growing up, again, it premiered and it was a huge game changer with Saturday Night Live.
Uh huh. Saturday Night Live. Did you see the
Are you
movie that
there?
just came out?
No, what movie?
There's a movie about the pilot of Saturday Night Live. Yeah,
Really? Oh, I
yeah,
need to see that because that was also a huge game changer. I mean, and especially in our town, that was like a date night. Like instead of going out on a date, you stayed in and we watched Saturday Night Live on TV.
yeah. Oh my God, that original cast is my favorite. I love how subversive they were and how they were doing everything for the first time. And
Yes,
oh my God, I mean, it was like punk rock, punk rock comedy.
right. Absolutely. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was huge. It was such a big deal to watch it, and they were so innovative and creative. And you're right. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was also in the Mel Brooks and Neil Simon and Woody Allen movies.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, and some that, are so not politically correct.
I know Blazing
Like
Saddles.
Blazing Saddles. Yeah, that's so funny. Jinx.
You would not know the amount of African Americans I know who are not offended by that movie.
Oh, you're kidding. No, I'm so glad to hear that
Yes,
because it was so funny.
especially in show business, I'll tell you. They love it.
Right. Oh yeah, but you couldn't show that today. People would be so up in arms about it.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is so wrong. Leon Frankenstein, I love that movie. Also turns
Yes.
50 this year. Yeah.
Oh my word. I used to know every line to that movie and would recite it. I
Hmm.
drove my parents crazy.
Yeah, it's a classic, Dr. Frankenstein. And they also adapted it into a Broadway musical.
Oh, you're kidding.
No. They
Oh my gosh.
I was volunteering for a theater company at the time of my car accident. They ended up doing that play while I was in recovery, and sadly I never got to see it. But they did do it though, and I thought that was pretty cool.
That is really cool. Oh yeah. I, what was his name? Marty Feldman
Marty
as
Feldman.
oh, he was so funny with the big eyeballs and his hump that kept changing sides.
Yeah, and I love it when like I'm trying to remember what happens. The light blows out, and Wilder's like, "Damn your eyes!" And then you see his eyes like light up, and he's like, "Too late."
Yes.
It's a classic.
Yes. It was. It definitely was.
Yeah, I can
Oh my
imagine.
gosh.
I can imagine being from Texas, though. You really loved westerns.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of got burned out on them, because it
There's
was
so
like
many.
so many of them, and that's what your parents would want to watch, and kind of got burned out on them. I guess that's why some of the horror and the comedy was so impactful on me, because it was different. You're so used to the westerns.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, enough already.
yeah. I know. I like John Wayne westerns. Like The Searchers is my favorite. I love Natalie Wood, and I think she's so great in that movie.
Yes. Yeah, John Wayne was great, and I grew up watching a lot of the Clint Eastwoods, all the spaghetti westerns they called them.
Yeah, A Fistful of Dollars is my favorite. I like that one.
Yes.
I like that one the most because it's so small and contained, whereas the sequels, like The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, were all elaborate and too long. You know?
Right, right. Yeah, I can see that. I know it's like they take a successful film and then they try to build on it and it loses something in that mix. It loses the originality.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, like also Red River's another John Wayne one. I like that. I like that. It's funny when you see that movie, you can see Quentin Tarantino's influence from Howard Hawks because it's a talking heads movie. It's very dialogue heavy, and there's like maybe 10 minutes the most of action the entire 2.5 hours. It's a very good movie.
Oh, I'll have to see that one. I'm going to see that.
Oh, you never saw Red River? You should.
No, or if I did, I don't remember it.
Yeah, and also too. Oh my God, like Montgomery Clift plays his son, and they're estranged, and they have to come together in this movie. And the way Montgomery Clift comes off in 1948, it reminds me of when I see millennials that are entitled today. It's so uncanny.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's a really cool observation. Oh, yeah, I'll have to see that.
yeah. Oh my God. Also, Bandolero with Dean Martin. That's a good one. Jimmy Stewart and Raquel Welch and George Kennedy is in it.
Oh, man, what a cast. I met Jimmy Stewart when I lived in Los Angeles.
Oh, tell me about that.
Oh, that was so cool. He was signing, this is back, when VHS tapes were big, and
Hmm.
he was at a video store and he was autographing um, covers of the VHS tape of any of his movies.
Hmm.
And I got his autograph and got to visit with him. And he was old then. He was a very old man, but he was so kind and sweet and charming. And, oh, come on. I had him sign the one Harvey,
Harvey is my
his movie
favorite.
Harvey.
That's my favorite movie he ever did.
Yeah, I had him sign that. But to have the people that were lining up,
Hmm.
he wasn't bothered. I mean, he took his time with each person. I just
Hmm.
remember that. He was really sweet.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's nothing bad I ever heard about him other than he was conservative and he may have been racist. Um, but a lot of people from that time were. But
Oh yeah.
I've heard nothing but good things. He was just gracious with everybody. I've heard stories about people meeting him backstage at the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and just being so gracious with people there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he's my favorite actor from the golden age of Hollywood.
Right. Oh yeah, he was good. He was very good.
Philadelphia Story. He got the Academy Award for Best Actor. He should have gotten Best Supporting Actor. It's more like a supporting role when you look at it all in all.
Right.
But they gave it to him because they didn't think he was going to be coming back after the war. Because
Oh wow.
oh yeah, they would give Academy Awards to people who were just being drafted just in case they didn't come back from the war, and he was one of them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Um,
Wow.
did you have any movie crushes growing up?
Oh, let's see. Who was my movie crush? I don't know if I had any movie crushes. I had lots of music crushes.
Who are your music crushes?
Well, I had first coming out when I was younger, was Donny Osmond.
Of course.
Donny Osmond was my first music crush.
Mhm.
And then as I got older and got into high school, I was really crushing on Eddie Van Halen.
Oh yeah, everybody was.
That's all I listened to.
I interviewed this rock groupie. She was also from Texas, and she had dinner one time with Eddie Van Halen, Valerie Bertinelli, and her parents, who were Italian, right? And there was a lot of cursing going on at this dinner table. And when she was growing up in Texas, if you cursed, oh, you would get slapped upside the head. I mean, she didn't. Her family did not take it, so it was a brand new experience from her. And I can confirm, coming from an Italian that's from a Italian, Irish, Croatian family. There was a lot of cursing around the house when I was growing up.
Right, right, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man, what I would have loved to have been a fly on that wall for that dinner.
yeah. um,
That would be so cool.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I had crushes on, lots of 80s movie actresses. Many of them I've interviewed and become friends with over time. Uh,
Yeah.
Cary Grant was a big one for me.
Yes, and in fact, you know what's weird is a guy that he's 2 years younger than me. We were in high school together, so he was two grades behind me, and
Hmm.
he was cute back then in high school. His name was Lance Langford,
Hmm.
and he was cute back then, but he has aged so beautifully. He looks like a Cary Grant. I
Yeah,
mean, he's beautiful. And I was telling some of my friends that his high school sweetheart, Nita, I was telling her, I said, that's who he reminds me of. He reminds me of Cary Grant, which, people don't mention him much today in
I
my
know.
generation, but that's who Lance reminds me of. He's just aged like this old movie star.
I know. Oh my God. My mom had a paperback book of Cary Grant, had all these beautiful black and white pictures of him, and that was like my early reference for him. And then when I was 5, TNT came, and I would see his movies on TNT or TBS or something.
Right. Okay, now I know. You know who my movie crush was?
Ooh,
Was Sean Connery.
oh, okay, yeah, during the Bond era.
Yes, yes, Sean Connery. He was so handsome and just, you felt like he could just conquer the world. And it was from those Bond movies, but yeah, he was my crush.
Yeah, he was my favorite Bond when I was a kid and still is. I love Goldfinger and I love Thunderball. Oh my God, that's a great one.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got the flying jetpack.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that's funny.
remember for like 25 years, ABC would premiere a new James Bond movie every couple of months, and they would play the old ones back to back like each month and stuff. I got to see the tail end of that when I was a kid.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, that was like, oh my God, for 25 years they did that.
Right. Well, and it's just they've had so many James Bonds now. It's just lost its luster.
Yeah, I didn't like the Daniel Craig one. I saw it in the theater in 2021. I literally fell asleep in the theater.
Oh, that says a lot right there.
It wasn't entertaining, and there
I
was
know.
there was no women with suggestive names. There was no humor. There was no fun escapes or anything. It's like they've ran the
Right.
gamut of Bond.
Right. Yeah, you're right. They should have just retired it.
Yeah, maybe they will. Who knows?
Who knows?
You mentioned seeing Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the drive-in. Was that your first ever drive-in experience?
Um, I believe so. Because I saw other drive-in movies, but that's the one that I remember the most. And I mean, true to form, and we loaded up people into the trunk. This is back when cars you could fit tons of stuff in your trunk, and
Yep.
loaded up friends in the trunk to get them in free. I
Yep.
mean, it's so cliche, but we did it.
You wouldn't believe how many people have told me the same thing.
Oh my gosh, it's like a rite of passage. You have to
Hmm.
do that if you're going to the drive-in.
I even suggested it one time to my dad, and he's like, "No, we're not going to do that. That's bad."
I know it is bad, but you got to do it. You know.
Yeah, my parents started taking me to the drive-in when I was 2. I saw Weird Science and Rambo 2 at the drive-in, and when I was 3 and a half, they stopped taking me for a while because it got to a point where I was either falling asleep in the back seat or I was getting out of the car and knocking on windshields.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, go spy on the couples making out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
My dad was a teenager in the 70s, so he would go to the drive-in. He would see the same movie 3 times because the first 2 times he had a date and he was either getting laid or making out. And then the
Right.
third time he'd go alone and be like, this is a masterpiece. It's going to be an immortal classic someday.
That's great. I love that.
He did that with Animal House, Rocky, The Groove Tube, stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Oh, Animal House. That's another one that's politically incorrect.
That's the funniest comedy ever made, and will always
Yes.
be up there in my top three, along with
Oh
the
yeah.
40-year-old virgin and what's
Yes.
up, Doc? Three very different comedies.
Yes. No kidding. Oh, John Belushi. He was so good in that.
I know, stuffing his face with the sandwich and everything.
Oh my word. And then oh my gosh, that movie. That was awesome. And people thought you thought that's what college was gonna be like.
Right? Yeah, those supposed to be 1962, and like, yeah. All the food. He's got Jello on his tray. He's got donuts. He's got these like finger sandwiches. Just all this stuff. I mean, he was just a pig.
Right, right.
And of course, he puts the rice ball in his mouth and spits it out and says, "I'm a zit. Get it?"
I'm a zit. I really I'm a zit. And everybody's like, frozen.
I know it's
Yeah, that was
that was my favorite part of
that
the
was
movie. I look forward to every time my dad and I would watch it when my mom wasn't home.
yeah. I just remember I love the part where they're at the dance club and they're like the guys come up, can we dance with your dates?
Why, no, not at all. Go right ahead. And oh
Go
my,
right ahead.
and oh my God, his hand is bigger than her hand.
Yes, yes. Oh man, there were so many great scenes.
If I was in your shoes, I'd be leaving. That's a good idea. Love that whole movie.
uh, I know. I need to sit down with my kids and make them watch that. I really do. It's so
Yeah.
funny. I
When
wonder if they would laugh.
when Belushi is like looking at Mary Louise Weller getting naked, originally in the script she was supposed to masturbate, but
Oh,
she protested against it, and I think I would have probably given the movie an X rating at that time if they had.
yeah. No, you're right. It would have. Yeah, it definitely would have.
Even if
But they
it
showed.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
even if it was going to be suggested and she'd be wearing her underwear.
Right, right. No, you're right. But they do show the how it infers to the hand job, if you remember,
Oh yes,
in the convertible.
yeah,
And she's like, I need a new glove or something. She's wearing a
yep.
glove.
I'll say, yeah, classic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So getting into television, like what sitcoms did you watch growing up?
Um, let's see. Well, I Love Lucy was on quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was dated before, like the reruns that I was watching, but it was on TV quite a bit. And then Brady Bunch, watched a lot of Brady Bunch
Me
and the
too.
Partridge Family.
Me too.
Um, what else was on? I think Three's Company came later.
Yes, I
That
love
came
Three's
later.
Company.
Oh yeah, no, I did watch that. I watched Three's Company, but I think growing up, mostly it was like that genre of Brady Bunch, Partridge Family,
Mm-hmm.
um, Mary Tyler Moore
Yep.
show, Dick Van Dyke show, a lot of those.
Yeah, I used to watch I Dream of Jeannie, and
Oh yes, I Dream of Jeannie. Oh yeah, I wanted to be her.
yeah, there was that controversy about her showing her belly button on TV.
I know.
Well, the reason why is because the NBC censors thought that it was an enticement for her breast and vagina, so they completely banned that. And then 2 years later, Gene Roddenberry broke that rule. He had Barbara Luna and Nichelle Nichols show their belly buttons on Star Trek. And then a few years after that, Roddenberry did a pilot called Genesis 2, where Marion Hartley played a space woman with two belly buttons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that's why they didn't want to show it.
Yeah, it's so silly because it became part of the culture. Women showing their belly buttons off. For
Right.
liberation. And feminism and all
Yeah,
that
women's
stuff.
rights. Yeah,
Madonna,
absolutely.
Madonna made it huge, of course.
Yeah, yeah, she did.
Parents started getting pissed off that their that their daughters were doing that too,
Uh-huh.
you know, and it got worse with my generation. I'll tell you because I remember every girl in school at my school was showing theirs off all the time.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, of course
That's funny.
there was a lot of Western TV shows, Bonanza, The Big Valley,
Right.
Wagon Train.
Yeah, I remember watching Big Valley a lot.
Remember the Wild
And
Wild
Lone Ranger.
Lone Ranger with Clayton Moore?
Yes, with Clayton Moore.
Oh my God, Tom Wilson, who played Biff in Back to the Future, he wrote a memoir years ago called The Masked Man. And I think this is just fiction. He's just trying to make his story much more entertaining. He went to an autograph show to sign autographs, and he met Clayton Moore, and Clayton Moore was pretty much stalking him, and then they ended up having like a mentor and protege relationship for a while or something. I don't know if it's true or not, or it's just fantasy that he wrote for this
Right.
book, but it's a pretty entertaining story. And he said that
Yeah.
he learned from him how to get through the bullshit of being known for playing only one character.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a neat story.
Yeah, it's called The Masked Man. It's a great story. The audiobook version is on YouTube,
Oh, okay.
and he
The
and he
Masked Man.
and he reads it. Yeah. Remember the Wild Wild West?
Yes, I do.
That was crazy. That was a crazy show. The movie I was disappointed by, although I did think that giant mechanical spider was cool.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Lancer,
Yeah.
which a lot of people forgot about Lancer until Quentin Tarantino brought it up again in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. You know, since you mentioned Quentin Tarantino, I didn't realize how much an influence of these earlier films had on his work.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
That's
funny.
a
I remember early in his career when he was doing Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, he was saying how much he loved westerns, especially by Howard Hawks. I'm like, I hope he makes a western.
wow.
He made two, and they're so
Yeah,
different from the other. The Django is a spaghetti western homage, and The Hateful Eight is more like the High Chaparral TV series.
right,
You know,
right.
and it's got a little bit of Reservoir Dogs in it, and that everyone is in this contained space trying to figure out who wants to kill who.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool to see that influence.
Did you watch Batman growing up?
Oh yes, watch Batman. Watch the TV series. What was his name? Who played Batman?
Adam
Uh,
West.
West. That's it.
Yeah, I
Yeah, watch that series.
I interviewed Burt Ward who played Robin, and
Yes.
he's got the same voice that he did when he was 20, and
Oh, you're kidding.
yeah, and he was yelling out loud to his publicist because a day and time mix up happened, and I'm trying so hard not to laugh because any moment now I'm expecting him to say, "I'm not going to be a pawn in your game, Joker."
That's funny. I can see you trying not to laugh. How funny.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah. Did you like the Monkeys?
Oh yeah, love the monkeys.
Yeah, Davey was a big crush
Yep.
of mine.
Yes. Yeah, Davy Jones was a big crush.
Yeah, I remember when he was making a comeback in the late '80s when the Monkees were coming back. He was doing a lot of acting. He was going on shows like My Two Dads and Sledgehammer, and
Right.
they gave him some funny stuff to do on those shows. He was very self-deprecating about his size and being British and all that.
Yeah, he was. He totally used it to his advantage.
Yeah. And he lived in the Bay Area. And my mom, who works for the cable company, one of her tech guys went out to his house to fix some cable or something. And he was there with all these girls. They were about to have an orgy in the bathtub.
No, I love it. Oh wow. So he really did go that way. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome too. I'm like, yeah, that's my man.
Yeah, yeah, you do it. Get it on. I love it.
Did you watch The Twilight Zone?
Oh yeah, watch The Twilight Zone with Rod Sterling.
Yeah, it's funny. I interviewed his daughter, and she told me he had so much creative control in the Twilight Zone at MGM that when he went to Universal for Night Gallery, he had no creative control over there. He he was not too proud of that series, but both series are good in their own way, even though they're way
Right,
different. You know.
right.
Yeah, like Talking Tina. That doll was so scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it made you scared of dolls, all dolls.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, Twilight Zone was creepy.
June Foray, she was the voice of Talking Tina, and she was the voice of Chatty Cathy at that time too. And I saw her in an interview do the voice, and she could still do it in her like early '80s.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
She could still do it.
those voiceover actors are so gifted. Like it's their calling, you know.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right about that.
Yeah, and the one where Bill Mummy's the kid who does all those bad things with those powers, you know, and you gotta be nice to him.
Yes. Yes, yes. And then he went on to do Lost in Space.
Lost in Space.
I remember Lost in
He
Space.
did Fish Heads, that song, Fish Heads, roly poly fish heads,
Fish heads.
eat them up, yum. Yeah. The guy who did it with him, I reached out to him before he died to do an interview. All he did was read my message and never got back to me, sadly. But yeah, he's been a musician mostly in the last 30 years or so. He has a band with John Cowsill and Vicky Peterson of the Bangles.
Oh wow.
They're called the Action Skulls, and I think they're on tour right now.
Oh wow.
I saw an
The
advertisement for
action
it.
schools.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Action Skulls. They have a YouTube channel too, where they're like talking on camera, and they are so funny, the three of them.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Remember Dark Shadows?
Yes, Dark Shadows.
It's funny, right? When I was a kid, they did a reboot series, but I didn't know about it. It wasn't until the Tim Burton movie came out like a decade ago that I finally found out about Dark Shadows. And now, like I've interviewed Catherine Lee Scott and Sharon Smythe, the little girl that was on there for a while, and
Right.
that show has such a following. I've even interviewed the horror movie actors who told me their first reference of horror was Dark Shadows.
Oh wow. Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah. Did you watch Kung Fu?
Kung Fu, I watched some. I didn't watch a lot of it, but I did watch some of it. That one was it with Keith Carradine?
David, but Keith was on there.
David. But Keith was on there, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That show, it was like a western, but it was had Chinese philosophy in it.
Right.
It was like the anti-western. That's what Carradine called it,
Oh wow.
the
Yeah, I
anti-western.
remember watching some of it, the anti-western. I probably should have gotten into it more since I was sick of westerns.
Yeah. It's funny, he didn't want to do a series, but when he read the script, he knew he had to do it, but he knew that he wasn't going to be Mr. Professional to the executives when he met for the meeting. So he showed up to the meeting wearing nothing but shorts and no shirt, no shoes, nothing. And he was obviously under the influence of something. And like he got up on their desk and started acting almost like a caveman, like lighting a fire or something. And there was just something of the way he commanded he commanded that they were like, this is the guy. He has that look.
Wow.
He's got that look, you know.
Wow. Yeah, see, it's that's really cool. You know, you just take risks and look what happens.
Yeah.
Good
It-
for him.
yeah, I'm surprised they've never done a reboot of this ever since he's passed, you know.
Right.
I'm sure they will eventually. So getting into music, do you remember the first album you ever bought with your own money? I can imagine it was Donny Osmond or something.
No, actually, it was Rush.
Wow, I saw Rush on their last tour. I was out of the hospital from my accident for a month. I was frail as fuck, and I go to the arena, and oh my god, it was the best concert ever.
Well, I never got to see them in concert, but they were my first album that I bought
Which one? Which one?
myself.
Which album?
Um, well, like I don't want to say the first one, but it might have been. I can remember the cover.
Was it kind of like it looked like it was hand drawn white? What was that the one?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the album. I just remember it was Rush.
yeah. It was yeah. It's like it's got a white background and the band's name is written in red. Is that the one?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
working man and finding my way is on there and in the mood.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that was when they were kind of like Led Zeppelin or Cream, you know, at that time. They
Yes.
didn't really get prog rocky until they did 2112, although they did a little bit on Caress of Steel.
Okay. Yeah, I loved them and Led Zeppelin. Listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin, and then like I said, Van Halen.
Ah, that first album is the
Um,
best.
yes. Um, who are some others? I was really into the heavy rock and roll, and I remember one of my friends, Trisha Joel. She had a blazer. You know, this is like the '70s blazer, and it was where you could take the hard top off.
Hmm.
And there a group of us, it'd be like 6 or 7 of us crammed in this thing, and we would drive around town listening to Van Halen over and over on 8-track tape.
Yeah. My dad had the vinyl record of the first album in 1984. I was dancing to Jump from the time I was a year old. I mean, I just loved
Oh,
it.
that's so neat. Oh yeah, that song. That's so neat. You were jumping to it.
Yeah, loved it. I was an MTV kid, so like Phil Collins' No Jacket Required and Poison were the first two birthday money albums I bought when I was 8.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow, what memories. That's so cool.
because I had seen the videos on MTV, and I used to rent Phil Collins' video album of No Jacket Required, so like, I wanted those really badly.
Right. Oh yeah. MTV was such a huge influence, wasn't it? I mean,
God,
it's where you got Oh, it was
it
huge. I
changed the
wish it was
game.
still like that. I know. It totally changed the game. I wish we still had it like it was, you know?
Hmm. I interviewed Nina Blackwood. You remember her? She was the first DJ
Yes.
on the show.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, I asked her if Madonna's belly button was controversial, and she kind of chuckled and said, "No, not at all."
That's great. Yeah, I wish we had the old MTV. I really do.
It was the best.
It,
Yeah.
it really was. Well, and I would love it, especially like at my age, because that's how I would learn new music and new
Hmm.
artists. You know?
Oh yeah. It was. I was. I mean, there were artists that didn't want to make videos, but they did them anyway because they knew that if they didn't, they wouldn't get good record sales. But
Right.
it was just a fabulous thing. And the fact that it became a reality TV station, by the early 2000s, it's so heartbreaking.
I know. I know. Yeah, because that was just huge, and you're right. It was like it could make or break an artist.
Yeah, and the videos were shot on video in the beginning, and then they became more film-like, especially with the British guys. They were more film-like, and they were always cheesy, but they were just so entertaining too.
Right, right.
My parents.
I can remember.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I forgot. Go ahead.
Oh no, I remembered that video. Remember they won like all these
Take
awards.
on me.
Take on Me. Remember that video?
Yep.
Black and white like sketches, and that was so cool. I mean, you never had seen anything like that.
Yeah, that's a classic. I remember I was about 7 the first time I saw it, and I had never seen anything so cool before in my life. It was just
I know.
awesome.
I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I do. And then I remember they won all these awards for it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, my parents had a big old box of vinyl records, everything from the Beatles to the Stones to Carole King's Tapestry to Van Halen's albums, Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, Rod Stewart. They're huge Rod Stewart fans.
Yes.
There's nothing like that stinky, musky smell of vinyl. It's intoxicating.
I know, isn't it though?
Hmm.
I remember my LPs, and then I had all the 45s. I had this little 45 container.
Hmm.
It was where you'd stack them, and you could carry it around with you.
Yeah.
And then I remember getting my first 8-track tape deck installed in my car.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you remember your first concert?
Yeah, Black Sabbath with Ozzy Osbourne.
Was that like right at the end when they were just winding down with Ozzy?
It must have been, yeah, because he wasn't with them anymore. But I'm trying to think what year. My first concert, it would have been in the late 70s.
Hmm.
So I want to say my first concert was it 78? 77, 78,
Yeah, that was
somewhere in
probably
there.
Never Say Die tour. That was their last.
Okay,
That was their last with Ozzy.
okay, then that would have been it. That would have been the tour that I got to see it. And I remember I was in ballet. That was my big thing. And I got a band T-shirt, got a Black Sabbath T-shirt, and cut the top, cut the collar out and cut the sleeves off, and I wore that thing like a ballet uniform to all my ballet classes. I thought I was so cool.
Oh, you were cool. I think that set the stage for you to be in Luscious Lips.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, were you? My first concert, I had three really because the first two were in venues that aren't usually concert venues, and then I had my big concert venue one. I saw the Monkees at Candlestick Park. It was just the three of them. They drove off the field in a Cadillac with the top down. It was great.
Wow.
I saw Steppenwolf at the county fair. John Kay was the only original member, and he was great. He was very charismatic and funny, and all the 40 and 50-year-olds were just looking depressed like the magic was gone.
Oh, how sad.
And then my first big show was Alice Cooper.
Oh, wow. Oh, I would have loved to have seen him.
Oh, yeah. I'm still trying to remember how he died. I can't remember how he died on stage.
I can't remember either.
Because he either hangs himself or gets electrocuted or shot or something.
Right, right. That's right. Well, one of my concerts, I guess, after high school and going into college in the 80s, early 80s, I went to see the Go-Go's, and I remember being so disappointed.
Why?
They were so bad. They were bad.
What year is
They
this?
were just, it had been in the 80s, the early 80s,
They were probably fucked
when
up.
they first,
Yeah, because they used to get high before going on stage and stuff.
oh man, well, they were horrible, and I remember thinking, okay, they can't sing. or they just sounded like shit. I hated that because I was so excited to see them.
The drummer Gina Shock is a friend of mine. She's been on the podcast twice. I love her, and yeah, I mean there was a in the early '80s. I mean they were leading up to the success. They were always getting high on stage and stuff, and Gina kind of, pushed them into another direction of like, okay, you want to party? I get it. I want to party. However, we got to work on the music so we don't disappoint people. So she got them to
Oh
stop
wow.
going up on stage high and stuff and wait until afterwards. So, yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, then that must be it. They must have been just super high.
Exactly. I mean, they were high. They were high all day. This was like the only time under Gina's watch that they got high before the show. When they were on Saturday Night Live in 1981, they got so fucked up that it wasn't until recently when they saw a picture of Billy Joel with them that they didn't realize Billy Joel was there too.
Oh.
Yeah, because they were doing that experiment of having two musical guests at that time. Yeah, Billy Joel was the
Right.
other one.
Oh, how funny. And they didn't even realize it.
Nope, they did not
Oh
realize it.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, that explains it. I'm so glad I mentioned that. That explains why. Because I remember being so sad. I was like, it's the Go Go's. And they just didn't sound like how they used to sound, usually
Yeah.
sounded. And that makes sense. That makes total sense. Well, okay. I give them that. That's no problem.
If if you go on YouTube, there's an interview that Gina Shock and Kathy Valentine did with Martha Quinn on MTV in 1984, and
Yeah.
it's really funny and entertaining. And Gina had just had a heart surgery several months before, which prolonged the Go Go's tour, and that ended up being their last tour for a while until they got back together. But in that interview, Gina shows off her scar from the heart surgery, and Martha Quinn, who requested to see it, gets all grossed out by it, and Gina's like, "Oh, come on, it's not that bad. It's 8 inches. It's very attractive." And then Martha Quinn's like, "Okay, well, let's go to a commercial or something." Now Gina is bi.
Oh,
Gina is bi. I think she had a crush on Martha, judging from that interview.
right. Oh, how funny. Well, Gina, man, that's cool. Showing off her scar. I think that's awesome.
Oh yeah, all the Go Go's are very open minded. Very.
That's awesome. I just loved them. I remember the cover of their first album. They all had their hair up like in the towels.
Yep. They actually shoplifted those towels before taking that picture, and then as soon as they were done, they returned them to the store without any notice.
No, that's a great story.
Yep, that is true. Yep.
That is a great story. Oh yeah, they were a huge influence when I was in college.
Hmm. Do you remember your first?
Wow.
Do you remember your first makeout song?
Ooh, what would have been my first? I think it was Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah. Mine is Janet Jackson's "Love Will Never Do Without You,"
Oh wow.
and that led to my first heavy petting experience as well.
That's great.
Yeah, it was magical at 12 years old.
Yeah. Oh my God. How old were you?
12.
12. Wow.
Yeah, which ties into
You
my next.
started young.
Oh yeah, which ties into my next question. Do you remember the first time, whether it was intentional or by accident, that you saw porn?
Um, yeah, it would have been by accident. But I mean, well, okay, would you consider like when you first discovered like your dad's Playboy magazine? Would that be
Oh
considered
yeah,
porn?
oh
That's
yeah.
not really okay. That would be it was porn back then.
Hmm.
Nowadays it's it's very what's the word, tame
Yeah.
compared to what's out there now. But yeah, I remember discovering my dad's Playboy under the bed.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember being.
And being shocked, but also like looking at these women going, well, I don't look like that.
Yeah,
So,
when I was 7 years old, my family and I went on three family vacations. My dad could only attend one of them because he worked, and on one of those ones he didn't attend, we came back, and I found this generic titty magazine on his bed. It wasn't a Playboy; it was just a generic titty magazine, and I just looked at it and then threw it on the bed and ran away, thinking I was going to get caught I
right.
because I had admitted to seeing nudity on TV when I was younger than that, and I got into a lot of trouble. So I didn't want to, experience that again, And then fast forward a few years later, when I was 10, my mom worked for the cable company, and we had this channel called the Spice Channel, and I turned on the Spice Channel just by accident. I'm just flipping through the channels, and I see this guy fingering this girl, and I watched the scene, and then 2 years later, that first heavy petting experience that I just alluded to, it came in handy. So I don't know the name of that movie, but I thank it for helping me.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely helped you. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, how funny. I remember Spice Channel.
Yeah.
I
I
do
just saw it
remember
that
that.
I just saw it that one time, and we didn't have it for very long. It was just it was like a 1 month free kind of venture.
Right.
I think my mom knew that my dad would dig it. You know.
Sure, sure. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't tell my dad I found that magazine until I was an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but I
there's an actress I interviewed. She told me that when she was young, her grandfather had all these Playboys in his room and stuff, and after he died, uh, she went to go see her grandmother, and her grandmother asked her if she would like to have those Playboys, and she said sure, and she said. Let me ask you. I mean, why did he, have all those Playboys? Was he a chronic masturbator or something? And she's like, well, sort of, but I'll be honest with you. We had your mother or your father, whoever the relative was. We had your mother or your father on our first date, and it was kind of an arranged marriage type of situation because of their Catholic beliefs, and so they never really loved each other. So the Playboy magazines was his way out of
right.
cheating and all that stuff, and sexual satisfaction and what have you. And I thought that was very nice of her to share a common experience with me, because I had
Yeah.
told her about what I just told you and stuff. Yeah, I thought that was really nice.
Right. Yeah, that is. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember losing my virginity, but I don't remember a song playing or anything like that.
Oh, there was definitely no music playing during mine because I lost my virginity to my high school guidance counselor on the football field.
Oh my word. You're like a movie.
Yeah, it was the night of my high school graduation. I was 18. It was legal,
No.
and yeah, no music was playing.
Right, right. Oh my, the high school guidance counselor?
Yep.
That's crazy.
I've recently made contact with her on social media, and it's great to see that she's still doing well and she's back in her hometown. She left godforsaken Bay Area a long time ago, so
Right, right. Oh, that's neat that you reconnected.
yeah, I didn't think it was going to happen, but it did recently.
Oh, that's neat.
I had my high school principal on the podcast this summer, and she heard it, and so there you go.
I love it.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
my high school principal wrote a book, so I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, it's a book about
Yeah.
education.
Wow.
Do you remember how old you were when you discovered your belly button?
No, I don't. I'm sure it was young. I remember my sister discovering hers, that's for sure, because she would thump it
Thump
to
it?
wake me up. she'd lay there and she had an Audi,
Mm-hmm.
and she would just like thump it, thump, 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 and I'd have to tell her to stop it. So I'm sure I was pretty young. I just don't remember.
She was just obsessed with it. She was like, oh my God, is it going to come out? Is it going to pop out?
I know. She would just like as a nervous habit or whatever, would just thump it.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It was. It really was. Teased her about it a long time.
Does she still have it?
No, she passed away 18 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I raised her kids for her. So but yeah, she did still have the Audi. She did as an adult.
Oh my God, that is so hilarious.
It really was.
Do her kids have them too?
Yeah, yeah. Let me think. No, they don't have the Audi like she did.
Was she the only one who had an Audi?
Yeah, yeah. It was funny.
Oh,
I used to tease her a lot about it.
that is too hilarious. Was she younger or older?
She was younger. She was 2 years younger than me.
Oh God, that's just so tough to lose a sibling younger than you.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was horrible. She had an aortic aneurysm that burst.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with her. I was by her side, so it was very traumatic.
Oh, that's awful. So what do you got going on the career front these days?
I don't have anything going on. I'm pretty much, not in the business and just kind of doing my own thing. But every now and then I feel like getting back into it because I'm like, I'm an old lady now and it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't have the angst that I had when I was an actress, like, oh my God, I've got to get this part, or, you'd be so upset if you didn't get it. And now I'm like, I have a full life. It wouldn't bother me, like, if I auditioned and didn't get the part. Who cares?
Yeah.
Okay, move on to the next one. So sometimes I think about getting back into it, but I don't know how I'd be characterized.
Yeah.
A mom or...
Nice Southern lady, I don't know, in public or something.
Yeah, So I do think about it sometimes. I'm thinking, well, I'm sure there's some stuff that goes on in Dallas. A lot of stuff goes on in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, but the first time we talked, we were talking about Dee Dee Pfeiffer. I've had her on the podcast twice since then.
Isn't she a hoot?
Oh my God, I friggin' love her. And she started a podcast at the end of last year. She asked me to come on during our first interview, and then I don't know what happened, but she wanted to have all her friends on that she's known for years first, and then she said that she'll have me on when the second season premieres, and hopefully it's going to be early next year or the next season. And oh my God, I'm so friggin' excited. I just adore her.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I'm sure she doesn't even remember me because I had such a small part in that film, but I just loved her. I thought she was a riot.
Yeah, and we were nerding out a month ago, just like you and I are now, and we had a technical difficulty about 32 minutes in, and then the conversation took a radical shift because she forgot that she had to take her dog to the vet, so I only had like 6 or 7 minutes with her. So then we just started talking about what she's got going on currently. Right after we were talking about television, it took like a real dramatic shift.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed by that, but it's happened a few other times before.
Sure.
But it was fun,
Sure.
and yeah, we got each other's email and everything, and she's so open-minded and fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, you'll have to keep us all posted on social media when you do that podcast because I would love to hear it.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I have jokes for you.
What?
Okay. What kind of meat does a priest eat on Friday?
I don't know.
None.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to have to use that one. Oh, that's perfect. Oh, that's funny.
You know the difference between tofu and a dildo?
One is firmer than the other.
They are both meat substitutes.
These are great meat substitutes.
I love your laugh, Drew. It's
Oh,
you got this childlike enthusiasm in your laugh with your southern hospitality. I just adore you.
oh, thank you, Tommy. I adore you too. I love following you.
Thank you. Yes, and I love that you're not easily offended. That I can have locker room talk with you, and you're just so much a ball of joy. And I thank you for nerding out with me today.
Well, thank you. I was very flattered. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
And I hope you have a happy holiday season and be safe out there.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Well, there you have it. Dru Anne Perry Moss. Ain't she a sweetheart? Oh my god, I fucking love her. She is so awesome. And like I said, I love her laugh and her enthusiasm and her open mindedness. And it was great to nerd out with her today. And she is a gem, a total gem. Somebody in Texas cast her as a nice Southern lady in a church or something. Like I said, people who play nuns or church people, they are far from innocent. Far from innocent. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.